Okay, we're ready?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to have this on Facebook for you to go back and reference. If I actually say something you want to go back and remember, you can, it's live now, so you can go back in and search it. We're going to put it in as listing presentation, I think is how she put it. Okay, so first I want to start off saying that everybody does a listing appointment a little bit different. I tried so hard to get Brett to teach class about listing on listing appointment, and she would not, because she says nobody does it like me. I don't feel like anybody else. And it works for her, you know, so I think that you take nuggets from the things that we teach you and you tweak it to match you, your personality, what works for you, the way your brain works. The main thing that I want to reiterate today is that there are certain things that we need to get, no matter how we go about the listing presentation, there are certain things that, info that we need to gather to be able to effectively know enough about the house to help sell the house. So I do have a Prezi. Y'all know the teacher in me that loves Prezi, and so it's just a, you know, now you can do just like this and put it on the screen, you know, even if you're in somebody's house. Jessica, I had her comment, I'm going to have her share a little bit about this, but she has a booklet that she brings with her that she's created. I have a Canva template that I bought that's a listing booklet. Now I have gone in and tweaked it. I have yet to even print it out and ever use it, but I do have one. Mine's a little more simplified version of this, but you need to decide what works best for you. What I found, and the reason I went to Prezi's for both my buyer and my listing presentation, was I love hanging out with people. And so I would get myself in there and I'd just be chatting it up, and then I'd forget all the information that I needed to move forward with, okay, this is what we need to do from here. So let's just dive right in. Okay, so on my listing presentation, the first part of, in my opinion, is when I walk into a listing presentation, if this was a home, I'm going to meet Bree and I'm going to say, hey, I love the house. Can you take me around and show me around? I'm going to take my notebook with me and I'm going to write copious notes. I'm going to keep one column that's my negative column and one column that's my write-up column, because what I'm going to do is when I leave there, I need to be ready to write up some really great remarks, and I need to have a list of things that need to be done in order to get that house ready to sell. So I keep myself two columns. Now, you don't want to sit down with them and the first thing that you start talking about is all the stuff that's wrong with the house that needs to be fixed, right? So I start off with price and presentation. I want to come in with a very good understanding of the market as it pertains to their home. You're the expert. If you're not the expert, you're going to become the expert before you go sit down with them in their house. So if you have a listing and it's coming up in a certain neighborhood, then you need to sit down in the MLS and you need to dive through the homes that have sold in the past 6 months. You need to know, you need to print yourself a CMA so you can see what the homes have sold price per foot. Is that a neighborhood where you can really just go off price per foot? Or is it craziness in the freak nut where you literally have to look at the pictures of every single house? So you need to just have a good general understanding of the market as it pertains to their home before you get there. Because that's going to come across as this person's experienced, this person's knowledgeable, and you can do that without truly being an expert of all things real estate, okay? So be a student of their neighborhood, of the market of their home. Pricing is hands down the most important factor when it comes to selling something. Now, right now, we know that we've been in a really great, strong, hot market, and that's exciting and wonderful, but still the principle applies. There are homes right now that are sitting on the market, and it's because the people got just a little bit wild and crazy when they set that list price. At the right price, everything will sell. You'll buy the dress that's got a rip in the side if it's cheap enough. You know what I mean? So at the right price, everything will sell. Finding the right price is where it falls on us as the expert to dig through those comps and really try to find it. In a normal market, this is the way it works. Obviously, as soon as a home hits the market, you're going to have the most awareness. It's going to, Zillow and all the big syndicated sites are going to do that job for us. We're going to do that job through social media. Tons of people are going to see it, know about it. What happens after that has a lot to do with the price. If the price is right, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I got to get in there quick and make an offer. I made an offer on something today, and the buyer said to me, I know that somebody's going to buy this house today, whether it's me or not. because they understand the market. I've explained to them what the market conditions are like. They understand because they've been watching the market. I've been sending them listings. This is priced really well. So the buyer had the understanding that this is priced just right. We need to go with a very strong offer. There's not going to be a lot of negotiating room. So if we price a home too high, then we're going to lose that awareness toward the end. I have a couple of things here that I've noted. So bracket pricing, CMA, market response, and showing feedback. So I'm going to talk to them about pricing at the end. I need to see the home. I need to look at my comps. I may need to leave and call them back with a more sure, definition. If it's like a standard D.R. Horton neighborhood, I'm probably going to be able to, I'm going to have a range in mind, price per foot when I get in there. Once I look at the house, because I've done my research before I got there, I'm probably going to be able to price it while I'm in the house. It's up to you whether or not you do this here or then. CMA, I'm bringing that CMA for me. I'm bringing it for them. Sometimes people will think my neighbor's house sold for $50,000 more than it sold for. I heard, and you're like, well, I have the MLS right here, and actually sold for this. So it was right in line with the other comps, whatever. And then market response and showing feedback. So I want to talk to them about let's just say that they had a number in mind, and you feel like that number is, let's just say 5,000 to 10,000 higher than what you in your mind thought was the sweet spot for pricing that home. Well, the way the market's been lately, if a seller has that in their mind, I'm like, oh, sure, let's test the market. I'll test the market with you. The market's crazy right now. But we're going to let the response of the activity that we have on the home and the showing feedback drive what happens in the next couple weeks. Because in our market, a home that's priced really well, if it's under $400,000, shouldn't be sitting on the market, not getting shown, So if it's not getting shown at all, then there's really probably a big issue. If it's getting shown over and over and over and over and you're not getting an offer, there's an issue. So I want to talk to them here now at the very beginning about what that means, because I don't want to come back a month later and be like, hey, we've had a lot of showings and everybody's been talking about the floors need to be replaced. That goes back again with my list that I'm making, right? I'm going to make a list and I'm going to be upfront with them. If you're not willing to replace the flooring, it's going to probably be an issue. So we could hear about it during inspection. It could be a constant feedback of why we're not getting an offer because this is a lot of flooring to replace, whatever. I'm going to be upfront with them in the beginning, because if they hear it over and over and over and you're like, well, I kind of noticed that at the beginning, but I didn't want to say anything. That's our job. That's our job. So they might say, I don't care, I'm never replacing the flooring. You say, okay, well, it is what it is. We'll work with it. We're going to have to accommodate and reduce the price, whatever. Okay, staging. So I'm going to go through the house, and I am going to make sure that there's not a ton of clutter on the counters. I'm going to make sure that walkways are open. Whenever you walk through the front door, if the first thing you're looking at is, a couch that's shoved over up against a wall, instead of it being a nice open walkway, you need to think about what that's going to look like in photos. It's going to look cluttered and crowded. So I want to thin the house out. I tell people, I don't want to remove every personal item that you have in the house. I want to thin it out. I want it to look like a model home, the model home mentality. I'm going to talk to my clients about the fact that I use professional photography, that I'm not going to put a home on the market that is not representative of what I view as an acceptable home ready to hit the market. So that means that I'm going to help them with staging. I'm going to walk through the house that day. If they're ready to list immediately, we're going to walk through that day. And I'm going to go through room by room what needs to be done in order to stage the home. Here's my little, that is literally the same house, y'all.
Wow.
Look at that.
That's amazing.
That was when it was listed originally, and then that's when I listed it. Same house. The difference in a cell phone craziness. Okay. And then I'm going to let my clients know about syndication. So a lot of people don't really understand how all of this works. So I'm going to let them know that whenever I list your home in the MLS, it's going to automatically be syndicated. That falls back to the presentation and pricing, that, whenever we make a price reduction, all the big sites do a great job for us, because they email everybody and tell them, hey, that house that you looked at, that house in your area, the price just got reduced on it, So I'm going to let them know that it's going to be syndicated to all of the main sites, and that any kind of adjustments that we knew when we put it on the market, it's new. They're gonna get an email. Whenever we make a price reduction, if we have to, they're gonna get an email.
How many of those sites does it syndicate to? What are we talking? Hundreds?
Hundreds, yes, hundreds. Because, and I couldn't give you an exact number. You know, obviously on our side, we have the toggle for like and it states Zillow, Realtor, what other ones? Yeah, so it's those main ones. But basically, all these smaller feeder sites feed off of the bigger sites. You know, so it's hundreds for sure. Marketing. So then you need to talk to them about what you're going to do to market to get their home sold. Why are they hiring you? Because you're the whole entire time that you're doing this, you're selling yourself. So whether you're like Brett, who comes in with the expectation that this listing is mine and you've hired me, you don't even know it. I'm going to have the photographer here next week, and this is what we're going to do. This is going to be fabulous. You're going to love it. You know, it's going to be great. I'm going to sell your house. No matter how you do it, you are selling yourself the entire time. That's not me. I don't do that. I sell myself from, I've come to you with hard, fast numbers. This is what an appraiser is going to pull. I can tell you I'm going to get the most possible money that I can out of your house because we're going to do this, this, and this. This is what the numbers say. And so because of that, market conditions, I can sell your house for this much money. Here's your net sheet. This is how much money you're going to walk away with. I'm like the numbers, the analytical, now I love to chat it up and, hang out with people, but that's my approach, and my approach is different than some other people's approach. But I'm going to talk to them about how I'm going to market the property. So I have a couple examples here. I'm going to talk about Caravan, and I talked to Janet about this, and I said, the great thing is sometimes if I feel like I may have priced, my sellers really want me to price this a little bit high. Well, guess what? When Caravan comes around, this is a great time to tell them, yes, I'll test the market with you. We can price it at that amount. I really feel like the sweet spot is probably about $10,000 less than that. But let's see how it goes. Let's see how our activity is. When we have Caravan, our agents are going to come through and they're going to be brutally honest. They're going to tell us exactly what they think about staging, about the pricing, about anything that they feel like might need to be done to help you sell it. So when you hire me, you don't just hire me, you hire the entire company of Water's Edge, because we're all going to come through with the same mindset, and that's to help you get the house sold. So I'm going to show them, some of the things that I do, social media wise, graphic wise. I'm going to tell them about Caravan, and hey, that's a great point, because then you can say, hey, everybody came through Caravan and they said if you price it at $750, that this thing will probably be gone by the weekend. It's like, that's a great way to just slide that in, because it's something that you really thought, but when you have 15 agents walk through and every one of them says the same thing that just validated what you said, then there's a way to go back to your seller to say that. I go ahead and talk about price reductions. Again, I know we're in a different market and you may never have to deal with this anymore. This used to be kind of our magic rule of thumb that we said, if we have 14 days with no showings, the price is too high. If we've had 10 showings and no offer, the price is too high. If you've been 30 days on the market, the price is too high. And I would cut that almost in half now. Because in our market, with the amount of properties that there are on the market, the way the market's moving, you can cut all those numbers in half now, and that should be true. And I would talk to them up front, because when you get to that point, now that's going to seem like a really short amount of time, but you as the agent know as soon as that property hits the market, you've got the most exposure that you're going to have. And if you're, 5 showings and still nobody's written you an offer and you're getting feedback, the price is too high, or condition, then the price will offset whatever the condition of the property is. And then I'll let them know that we can use price reduction as a marketing strategy. When we make a price reduction, and I go back to the syndicated sites. Oh, ignore the WRE. That's old. But when I talk about Caravan and how all of the people come through. And then you see Kendall was in this. This is what happens when you share your template and folks start editing. But anyway, so sell yourself. Your last thing, how much have you sold? If you're new, I was in my broker class, they were like, a new agent, the best thing that they can do is toot the horn of the company. Our company has, is averaging, 10 million per month in sales right now, so you're not able to, give some great number or whatever, but you can come back to the company and point to the company.
Is that an accurate number from those?
Well, I don't know. We need to look at it.
That's what I
That
use
seems
for
low.
me, is the company, and all the people in the church.
Yeah, it should be more than that.
I think that's low.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 months in, so I feel like I don't even know, really.
Yeah, we have one thing.
Miranda would probably know. Yeah, that's right. I don't think we have an average yet. But I'm going to let them know how am I going to work for you after the property goes under contract. As a seller, like, let them know I'm going to make this as easy as possible. My goal is for the only stress that you have is to figure out where you're going and how packing up this house and getting it to the next place. I'm going to try to take as much off of your plate as I possibly can. And then I want to talk to them, and I'm going to go through the list of items. These are the things that I love about your house. These are the things that I feel like I can market about your house. Tell me what you love about your house. What's been your favorite thing? And then you want to just literally have them, they're going to sell the house to you. The things that they've loved about it are probably things that other people are going to love about it. That's going to go on my little list for my remarks. You know, I'm going to say this is the, the best walkable neighborhood, or, I love the view of the lake, on the side of our neighborhood, whatever. And then, okay, so from there, I'm going to go into, it's like the approach whenever I was a teacher, we did glows and grows. So you start with the glow. You always start with something that's good. I love this about your house. This is so great. And then you sandwich it, right? So you sandwich it with the bad. Okay, so these are a few things that I feel like we really need to do in order for us to get top dollar for the house, because that's my job. My job is to help you get top dollar. So these are the things that I feel like we could do. Now, I'm going to tell you, there have been people where I've sat down and I've said, if it were me and I was really trying to get top dollar, I would replace all this flooring. The carpet it's older, and we could have it cleaned, but realistically, this really needs to be replaced. So if you could afford it, if you could do that before we list the house, I would put LVP throughout this whole house. This is a $300,000 house. I feel like that would, multiple offers because of the flooring. But, so I go through my list, and I understand that not everybody is going to be willing to or be able to afford every single thing that I have on my list. But these are also things that I know. I walked into my listing in Lake Forest on the staircase. There was no working light in the living room. It did not work. It had not worked for years, and they had just used lamps, she said. I knew that was going to be an issue from the get-go, and I said, hey, this is going to be an issue. If we don't get this fixed before we list the house, when it comes time for inspection, I guarantee it's going to be an issue. Y'all, what do you think first thing on the inspection list?
Yeah.
Working light in the living room. And I was like, okay, see. So I said it from the front end. They were expecting it. Now, did they still want to do it? No. But, at least I told them. I knew it was going to be an issue. And the longer you do this, the more things that you see. What are some things we need to check and make sure? Make sure all your GFIs work. It's like simple little things. Let's just go through the house and make sure that all of your light bulbs are working. Replace light bulbs if you don't have any, if there's two places in the house and it looks like the lights don't work, put some new light bulbs in. So things that sometimes we see and we think are obvious. Obviously there's a light out there. Surely they're going to put a light bulb in it. Not always. Not always. So we just can't walk into a listing with the expectation that they know what other people want. I always point back to the model home mentality, that whenever you go to a DSLD, a D.R. Horton, an Adams Home model, they're all going to have a lot of similar characteristics because they're trying to appeal to the masses, and that's what we're trying to do. You've got somebody who's really attached, really sentimentally attached to their home, and the thought of changing anything in it just is devastating to them. You just have to decide. You have to decide, can I still sell this house with red and olive green and, bright yellow walls? Or do I not even want to bite this off? Do I want to be these are some things that I think need to get done, and I don't know that I can sell at that price if you're not willing to do those things. So, you have to decide. I think when you're early on, I'd be like, I just want to sign in the ground, and so, but two, it's not any fun at all when a listing's sitting there 2 months later and some things that you knew needed to happen didn't happen, and you can't sell it because of that. So I think that being honest is super important.
One thing I want to
go ahead.
point out while we're on the honesty thing. If you feel uncomfortable being honest with them, just ask them, do I have your permission to be honest with you?
That's good.
And then that way, if they say yes, and you're honest with them and they don't like what they hear, they told you to be honest with you.
That's good. Yeah,
You know,
putting it back on
pushing
them.
back on them.
Yeah.
I do the, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear or what
Or what you
should
need to hear.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Which is true, you know, it is true. And they've called you in, regardless if they knew you or you picked up the lead somehow, they called you because you're an expert, because they don't know what they're doing and you do. And so you have to act that way. And sometimes, you know, feelings might get a little bit hurt because this is people's home and they might like the bright red walls everywhere and the clutter from top to bottom and wall to wall. They don't understand why everybody else wouldn't just love that so much, you know. Or like my person said, I don't understand why they even care about the light. We just use lamps and it was fine for us, you know. And I'm like, yeah, most people like a light in the living room. Kind of crazy. And then the last thing I always finish up with is clean. I always recommend that they hire somebody to come clean the house. And I tell them this, that I don't care how much of a clean freak you are, it never fails. When somebody else walks into your home, they look at things that you don't look at because you're there every single day. We kind of grow numb to the things that are around us every single day. You walk into somebody else's house or I do it when other people come into my house. All of a sudden, I never knew that I had cobwebs in my dining room my dining room light fixture until somebody is visiting me. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking more critically, like, they're looking at my house like, oh, this is so dirty. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I see a cobweb in the chandelier, and they probably saw it too. And so that's how other people are when they walk into houses. And we're not your friend coming over to hang out. We're a buyer potentially thinking about issues that could be going on with this house. So clean is always the best smell. And so if at all possible for them, I always recommend a good deep clean before they sell. And let them know that they don't have to have it done again unless the buyer writes it into the offer. You know, so it's like if you do it up front, then it's done. You just have to have the contract says broom swept, broom debris, you know, so the house does not have to be cleaned again. We hot rodding down the alley. If you want to come show this. So everybody does it different as far as like whether or not to go ahead and gather and you know, like secure listing documents, that kind of stuff. But I try to keep myself a little list of the things that I need. So if they tell you the home is gold fortified, what do you need?
Certificate.
The certificate. Do not take their word. Do not go market that on MLS and Facebook and God knows where else that they told you that it's gold fortified and there ain't no certificate nowhere to be found. Because first of all, you're lying, unknowingly, but you did. You lied. And it's one simple question. Okay, great. Can you provide me with your certificate? You don't know where one is? I would say reach out to your insurance company. Most likely they have a copy of it. If we can't find one, though, I can't market that the home is gold fortified. Also, gold fortification expires. So if you're 4.5 years in, it expires in 5 years. We may need to consider going ahead and getting that gold certificate re-inspected. It's $150 to do that. See how I'm coming with knowledge? Like, they're like, oh man, I didn't know that. Oh, I can get it redone. I didn't know they expire, you know. I'm going to pull up the tax information. I'm going to check and see how much their taxes are. I'm going to check to see if they homesteaded their property. How many times have I walked into a listing appointment and said, hey, you never homesteaded your property, and if you go up to the courthouse this week, they will cut you a check for 2 years of back taxes. Can you go do that? Because that's going to help the buyer, because they're not going to have to pay that double tax rate if your current person will go ahead and file their homestead. And they'll get some money back. It's incentive. Mm-hmm. Do you have a survey? Do you have an elevation certificate? Have you have a septic tank or a well? Anything else that could need to be inspected? Okay, if you did, when's the last time you had your septic tank pumped and inspected? So these are, when's the last time you placed the features of your well, you know, the well pump, things like that. You want to start asking about the features of the home. I always try to think, if I'm the buyer's agent and I'm showing this house to a buyer, what are some things that I'm going to automatically have questions about if my buyer gets serious about this house? I use that seller, my seller, what do I call it? Seller homework sheet. and it has a notes section on it. It's in dotloop for you guys to use, and it's got ages of all the equipment. I want to know how old's the HVAC and how old's the roof. I mean, is that a question that's going to be asked? More than likely, yes. Do they have a current termite bond? When does it expire? Is it repair and replacement? You're going to need HOA information. You're going to need email and phone number for them. Is there a transfer fee? They probably don't know. You can email the HOA and find out for them. These are all things that no matter how you get the listing, if you know or not, these are all questions that need to be answered for you to effectively be able to sell their home. And there are some people who don't even worry about all that, and they just, as the questions come, they get it. I feel like my job is to gather. Well, and the busier you get, the more difficult and more annoying it is to have to keep going back to them, asking questions that you could have just gathered all together at the very beginning and have all in your, I can pull up from my phone, dotloop, and I can pull my seller homework sheet up. If somebody calls me with a question, hang on just a second, pull up my seller homework sheet. Okay, yep, looks like the roof is 3 years old and they replaced the HVAC last year. It's all on there, I have it all together. So I definitely think that's super important. Gathering all of the information that you need. You're gonna want a copy of that gold certificate. You're gonna want a copy of the survey. Did you know that they can save 15% on their title insurance policy whenever they sell, if they have their title insurance policy from when they bought the home? So do you know? And they're gonna say, I don't know. I might. Do you have your closing packet from when you bought the home? Oh yeah, it's in our safe. Go grab it. I'll look through it for you. Have them bring it out to the table. Let's go through it and see if you can find their title insurance. The big thing with title insurance is the actual title insurance policy. They don't get the day of closing. It gets mailed to them with the deed. So a lot of people misplace that. So, but you can also call the title company that they closed at and get it to help them save the money. Okay, here's Jessica's. And so she has it put, essentially kind of what I do, she has it put in a template form. Okay. So I thought this would be a good, for some of you who just like paper, I thought this would be good for you guys to see.
Y'all can pass this one on because this is another example. So Amy and I were sitting at the office one day, and you can get these off of Etsy. And that's kind of what we did is we looked on Etsy what kinds we liked. And then she bought one for him. I think that was the buyer's one. And I bought another.
Yeah, I think we actually bought two sellers because there were certain pages we really liked from one and certain pages we really liked from the other. And they were $10 each. So we married them.
Yeah, pretty much. But I will say, like, it took me probably 4 hours to go through this and change it to what I wanted in there. So it is time consuming, but you make it kind of your own. And I have one for buyers too, and I don't go through the whole booklet because it's like 30-some pages, but I do kind of like tab it when I go, and I also don't leave it with them unless they're my client. So if they sign that day, I do leave it, but I mean, to print this and to have it like covered, this is $10. Like, I'm not going to just leave it for everybody because then they can sell it on their own and have all the information here. But there are a couple people I know that as sellers, like, they want to know all the details. Well, guess what? All the details are right here. And it just kind of goes through absolutely everything. And then in the back, let's see, final steps. I've got like key terms that they might not know. And then seller mistakes about being emotional, setting unrealistic pricing, which we've already talked about, not decluttering. Trusted vendors are also in here. So if they want to look, that's all in there too. But it's basically just a booklet that you can leave with them. And again, I don't go through the whole thing because it's a lot, but tab your favorite pages and just go through and say, hey.
And I bought mine, same thing. I bought mine on Etsy, the one that I have.
And they also have, David and I have printed a couple like sellers brochures for FSBOs to drop off to kind of be like, and then we text the FSBO and we say, hey, we left you a brochure. Good luck with selling your home. If you have questions, please reach out.
Do you do a presentation and then just say, you know,
that's my presentation.
This is your
and I'll take obviously like the CMA and other paperwork, but that's what I go through with them to like talk about listing their home and the processes and the steps that we're going to take.
I bring a paper copy of the listing agreement, like the paperwork that you would need to secure the listing. I still am going to ask them to sign it digitally, but I can just leave them a paper copy. So I just have white folders. I think I have them in here. if you want to grab some. They're white folders that a business card fits in. You can sticker on the outside if you want to, and that's what I did. I just had some stickers made with my logo and just put that sticker on the outside.
Yeah, and I have them for buyers too, for a lot of first-time home buyers who don't know what's going on.
Yes.
I have
You can do that. We're not handy, or I don't know who to call to do
and
that.
all the vendors are in the back, so they don't even have to ask.
That's right.
you, they just look.
So you'd be like, I have a great list of vendors in the back of the booklet
Yes.
that I gave you.
I will
so.
let y'all, I don't want to let everybody know since y'all are here and some of you are newer. There are a lot of termite people that are now going and saying, I won't do a WIR unless they're already bonded with me.
Mm-hmm.
Havard is one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So if the house is not already bonded with Havard, don't even have your people call to do a WIR with them because they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind. I got to take them off my vendor list
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
that causes conflict with your client saying, hey, you gave me this number, but they won't do this.
Right.
So just keep that in mind when you guys have.
And everybody has their different. I was telling Jessica about this the other day that I'm very much like, it's probably the control freak in me. Like I do everything for my clients. I order home inspection. I reach out for insurance. I order termite. I get everything to title. I mean, I don't let them do anything. I ask them who they want to use, and then I do it. Because in my mind, that's the only way that I can be sure that it's done, and I don't ever have questions. When it goes to anything in my file, I've done all the work for it. I know that it's been done. That's me. You don't have to go that route. You can go the route of letting them do it and check in with them and make sure and that kind of stuff. But I just take it upon myself to take care of everything, order it for them. Inspection too, a lot of times if I'll say this is who you need. Some people are happy to take the reins on that, but I'm going to follow up literally like every day until I know that they have every single one of those items like lined up. Or I'm going to say, hey, I've got a couple vendors, I'll be happy to call them and get them out for you. But I'm very much like I like just do it myself.
Like that too.
Yeah.
I have a buyer Jessica's working right now, and he is a buyer that I said, do not do anything with this home inspection. Let him do it all because he's one that kind of scares me a little.
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Before I do pull myself back.
He's like, maybe I should check transaction
Yeah,
broker.
because if something goes wrong,
Yeah.
I've told him who he can choose.
Right.
I'm like, here's 3 you can call and schedule.
Yes, yeah.
Because I don't want.
Well, and that's what I do. I have an initial email that goes out, and if you don't have something that you do like that, I have an initial email that goes out to my buyers. I know we're talking about listings today, but that goes out to them after we go under contract that tells them, these are the things that we have to do. We need, and I list it: 1, inspection; 2, insurance, yada yada. And so I have there my 3 inspectors that I recommend, my 3, and so usually I will text and say, hey, you just got an email, and we need to go ahead and get the inspection ordered. Do you have a preference? I sent you a list of my preferred vendors, but I'm happy to call anybody that you would like. Yeah. And she's right. I mean, she said she's got a scary buyer that you're like, they just seem like they might want to try to sue me just
that's
because.
That's the issue, though. I sent them people to call for termite, and they called 3 people that weren't on my list, and none of them could do it, and I was going to yell at them.
Yeah, right.
Like, well, did you call the people I gave you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's for your buyer. That's what you do for your buyer.
For buyers, that's right.
You go ahead and send them those.
I do.
Okay.
I have I send that email to the title company. I attach that closing checklist that has all the information on it that title needs. And then I have my blanket thing that goes. I have 1 for buyer, 1 for seller.
I started sending a timeline.
Yes. And I send a weekly update too, email with what's been done.
And it just kind of has a congratulations, and it just has all of them. And I tell them like, I'm going to facilitate the majority of this for you.
Right. Yes.
This is what we have.
Kind of like, here's what we're doing, but just in case you need to know.
So our last, this is actually a guy that we bought our house from. This is the first time a realtor that had ever done this for us. We were his clients, and he actually made a checklist, and he was retired military, but he literally had, you need to have this done at least by this date. Yeah. Like he literally wrote a checklist with little boxes and wrote on paper with pen, like he had his regular checklist, and then wrote next to it, by these dates, here you go. Yeah, and so he's like, start checking these off, and then he kind of went over, so I wasn't overwhelmed. He was like, you can do this right now, we can do this together. But I was like, oh my gosh, this
it's in the back of the buyer one.
Yeah, it's very similar to that.
I didn't get that far. Thank you, Jessica.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. But I love that. Because I feel like I'm kind of all over the place. I'm in my own house right now. Like,
and then it turns through.
Yeah.
He did. It's like obviously like the the loan stuff is going to be
Oh, is it in
different.
the, it's in the buyer
On
one?
the loan page. So I
Faster than
did
what you're looking
all
for?
the lender
I think that
documents.
checklist that
And I
she
use
has
different
is in the
paper. I
buyer
don't use
one.
like printer paper. It's a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
These are really nice. to have.
Mm-hmm. They
Oh,
don't really
okay.
great.
Oh, final
Right,
steps
just
for the
mortgage
seller.
loans, so
Ooh,
we
I love
understand the
it.
differences.
I'm literally taking a picture of this for myself, like not to use for other clients, but
Yeah.
to like
Just getting that.
And the steps are
use for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what I found whenever I ordered my Etsy template was she said the same thing. They put two together, but something I found is you have to. One of them had a lot of stuff about disclosure. Well, we're a non-disclosure state, so you have to be sure that whatever's in there that it actually does pertain to.
Like I said, it was 4 hours.
This is one that I have that I send to my clients, Megan, which has like the timelines and stuff on it. And that's just a template that I have, like it's a billable template.
Someone's calling you.
Similar.
Oh, it does look very similar.
Very
I'll tell you what, you need to go. It's called
Just
Agent Crate. Agent Crate.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And they have, even if you don't subscribe to them, they send you weekly emails or every other day or something with ideas. And so you can literally, like, you know,
If you want
Rip and
an idea,
duplicate.
you can look at my Facebook page or my Instagram. I'm part of Agent Crate. It's like $20 a month.
yeah.
But all my social media stuff I pull from there that I post. You can create emails.
I just like subscribed, so I'm actually like subscribing. But this was where I got this, and it's like, congrats, you're under this is a seller. Congrats, you're under contract. And it just tells automatically where we're closing, the purchase price, the earnest money, and then it has all of our important dates that they need to know. When the earnest money was due, when I emailed the contract to the lender, when the inspection was, the due diligence contingency expired, the appraisal contingency, when they need to set their utilities to transfer, when the final walkthrough is going to be. So I just send that to them at the very beginning so they always can reference back in the closing date, real big right at the top.
Yeah.
So simple thing, template. It took me like 15 minutes to make it, and now I have it forever, for each client.
You saw you got a phone call.
Oh, no.
Just like
Agent Crate does
Sorry.
videos too, by the way.
That's stupid. Well, that's not a good sign when
Thank
a
y'all.
like that calls you.
This is awesome.
In the seller one,
The seller one.
in the seller one, one of my favorite pages that I feel like is a template for all of them is the 1 hour
That's why it's fell over.
page.
Yes, that's cool. Let me see that.
The sellers opening the buyer one.
I'm sure. Yeah.
What is that? The buyer one?
Yeah, do you want the 1 hour?
I want to see the 1 hour thing. What does that say?
I love that page. I love it. I need
Is
it
it
in
like
my life.
how to keep your
What
house?
you need to do.
Yeah.
You'll have people that like follow this literally to the.
Well, I always talk to my people about baskets are your friend. When it comes to the areas that you live in the most,
Again,
like
you can add and take
grab a
away all
basket.
of that.
grab a basket, make your beds.
I tell everyone for their bathrooms to put a plastic container under the sink.
Yes.
So that every
You can just
morning,
pull it
especially
out
for the
and stuff
kids,
stuff
they
in.
put
Yeah.
it on and then everything goes in the basket and then back up.
That's why I'm like, just pack up everything else in the bathroom that you don't need and have your under your sink clean so that you can store it away.
I bought
Max
just
and
dollar
straight
store
vacuum.
crates.
This is great. Yeah, this is really great. Just tells them you have 1 hour. What are the things that you need to do, like to get the house show ready? So grab a basket, wipe down the toilets, put the lids down, wipe countertops and mirrors. Make sure the bathroom towels are clean, matched, they're straight. Vacuum the carpets, sweep the front steps, straighten the sofa pillows, close the doors to the rooms, open the blinds, turn on the lights. Make sure the temperature is comfortable. That's great. Light a scented candle for a fresh and welcoming scent. Blow out before leaving. So that's a great idea.
Will somebody share that to Miranda?
I don't know if can yeah, we can text it.
I'll text it to
She'll
you.
text it to you. It's in her booklet.
I
Yeah.
have the template.
Okay. Any questions that you have? I know we've gone through a lot in a short amount of time. Any questions about listing appointments or something you were hoping that you would hear today or hear about today? Anybody?
Do you measure at your listing appointments?
I do not measure. And I would recommend that you don't measure because you can be held liable for that measurement. So the MLS gives us the opportunity to say where we're getting our square footage from. So I usually take the larger of whatever it is. So if the tax record, if I have an appraisal or it's the tax record, I'm going to go with the largest because who's the due diligence put on? The buyer. The buyer. So I'm going to put, and I'm going to source it. And did I do anything wrong if I put 2,400 came from the tax record? No, because I told them that's where I got it from the tax record. So my recommendation would be do not measure it yourself. You can pay an appraiser to measure a house if you feel like you need to. But again, I go back to due diligence falls on the buyer's agent. And what does that say to you if you're a buyer's agent? Then you need to pay attention. If you walk into a house and it feels a little tight and that's supposed to be 2,400 square feet and you're like, it feels about like 1,200 square feet. Well, then you might want to have an appraiser come measure it during your due diligence period for your buyer and decide if they're still going to move forward at that price that they paid when they're paying now, $50 too much a square foot or something,
What about room measurements? I know
I do room measurements.
Yeah, Baldwin County doesn't require, right?
No, they do.
Yeah.
5.
One does and one doesn't.
Yeah. So I do room measurements. I have my laser pointer, and I do all of the main rooms, the bedrooms, the living room, and the dining room. And I do it that day when I measure. All on my little notebook. I have like a 5 subject, like I'm in high school notebook. That's what I keep. 1 for listings, 1 for buyers, 1 for training, and I keep it all in there in my little notebook where I've written all my notes about things that are great, things that need to be worked on.
You do that for the bedroom, living, and dining, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's 5 rooms. We're required to have, it's a minimum of 5 rooms.
It's
So,
every bedroom, the kitchen, and then whatever you put for the living room.
right.
Whether
Whether
spare
it's
room,
living,
room,
dining, great. That's right. Yeah. So if there's like if there's a sunroom or a second den, I'm going to get square footage for both of those, or measurements. Anything else? Okay, so another thing to note is digging deeper and asking questions. If this home was built in 1969 and this is in an estate now, you need to be asking some questions about the estate. Okay, so you need to be asking, has it been through probate? You need to be asking them, is there anything attached to the deed of the home that would keep us from selling or a portion of the proceeds going somewhere else? Do you know of anything like that? Sometimes they're not going to know. You're going to find out their title, but sometimes they do know. Well, my mom did tell me years ago that I had that happen, that her brother had loaned her some money and that might be attached to the deed, and I don't think they ever went back to the courthouse and got that removed, even though she paid him back. Well, that cost $30,000 when they sold that house because it was still attached to the deed. I had another one where if they are, I had a seller who bought a house with somebody he was not married to. They were both on the deed. They were no longer together. He can't sell the house without her. So, it was like, okay, yes, I can sell your house. I cannot sell the house without her agreeing. She has to sign all of the documents just to be at closing. So unless she's willing to file a quit claim, then she's got to be a part of this conversation. I was able to do it, but it was like there's no way around it. So every time we got an offer or something, I had to deal with him, and then I had to call her and deal with her. And guess what? She was being real petty because if it hurt him, it made her happy, But you need to know that, whose names are on the deed, are all decision-making parties here right now to say we're making a decision to sell this house. What other things? As far as any kind of, if there's some kind of weird, like you drive in a driveway and somebody else's driveway connects to it and then you make an S curve and then you're at the house, you need to ask the questions about how's this work? Is there anything in writing? Because there's so many of these like more rural areas where it's a shared drive and there is nothing in writing anywhere, which was fine for Jimmy Joe and Billy Bob. But now that we've got, Mr. and Mrs. Jones going to buy the house and make it their farm, that's not okay, So we're going to have to get something recorded that says that they have the right to have an easement through their property to get to theirs. Anything else? Anything else anybody can think of? Again, questions? Anything I haven't said? Is it? Well, that's good.
Except for I don't do listing presentations.
I don't do this anymore at all.
I did back with Keller Williams.
This is my booklet. This booklet that I made ours out of, my booklet that I bought for seller and buyer looks similar to this. But now, I mean, when I first started off, I did this. If it was a listing for somebody that I didn't know, I brought this material in. Now I just bring me, because most of the time they've called me to list their house. But still, as far as gathering all the information, asking questions, the grow and glows, all of those things, I do everything exactly the same. I talk through all of those points, but I'm not selling myself. I don't have to sell myself quite the way I would if I know that I'm the third person coming up to try to get this listing. It's going to be a little bit different. And it makes me feel more confident to have something, if I either to put in their hand or to put in front of them. So that's why it's like a safety blanket to me. If I don't know you, then I've put something together, I have something to give you. Like I just feel like, I did my job, I turned in the assignment. You know, I don't know. Okay, Bree.
Okay, I have a question just because I was just working on one.
Okay, yes.
The seller net sheet.
Yes.
Is it good to go ahead and like have one prepared?
Yes.
And a breakdown, like
That's a
we were
good
talking
question.
yesterday, like after 30 days, if
Right.
there's no anything,
So
we
these-
lower the price.
Ours is really good because you can have like 5 different prices.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I was. Is it good to do that at a listing?
So
Or is it better to go ahead and-
yes, if it's not the fruit nut, or if I know what the house looks like.
Yeah.
If it's a standard neighborhood where
Yeah.
they're pretty, I can pretty much get a good gauge and I have a good window of
Like
prices.
if I already told her,
Oh yeah,
I
if you
already
already
did
told
the
her
comps
yes.
and I sent her,
100% yes, I'm gonna bring in
but I
that
did a
sheet.
breakdown. Okay.
So I'm gonna start with my list price, and I'm gonna break the numbers down from there. 5,000, 10,000, however high the prices are. In this one I did $5,000 increments. And Kendall does this different than I do. She doesn't put a home warranty on hers, and she waits for the offer to actually. I go ahead and put. I think of everything as like worst case scenario, So I'm like, it's a part of our contract. We're gonna pretend like you're gonna have to pay for it. If not, that's $500 more in your pocket, But yes, and then I ask them when I'm there, what's their payoff on their mortgage, or I ask them to have that for me when I come. What items will you need? I want you to have out your closing paperwork because I want to see if they have a survey. A lot of times they don't know what it looks like, what it is. I want to see if they have a survey, and you need to get your mortgage payoff from your lender. So those are the only 2 things that I ask them.
So if they don't have a survey, can you go in and add that though and put that?
Like, okay, so when we're negotiating an offer, if somebody asks for a survey, I will add a line item and add it in. I don't put it on the front end because a lot of buyers don't care, especially if it's like planning and development. It's not that, usually not a huge issue. But yes, so I do $5,000 increments across the board.
Okay.
That's a good question. Okay, anything else? Yeah, this one is easy. And I have this one where I have it out here where you can change the commission out here to change the number. So it's a formula. And then,
Where did you get this one? Is this one you created?
yeah, I'll just have it forever. I can share it to anybody who wants it.
Can you share it?
Yeah. Because I have one, but it's just a little bit more.
Here you go. Yes. You can type your email in and share it to yourself. Okay. I mean, I think that is, again, I go back to, you need to think about, you need to analyze yourself and the way that you think and the way that you operate your business and decide what works for me. Like Brett said, I do it different than y'all. It's what I do is not going to work for most people because, she's like, I'm wild and crazy, just go in like it's mine. I'm like, oh, photographer be here Tuesday. You don't need to sign anything, but I'm telling you, they're going to be here and I'm going to sell your house, So do what works for you, but be sure that you're knowledgeable. Be sure that you come in with your knowledge that you needed to get before you got there, and make sure that you're gathering your information that you need to be able to effectively sell the house. And try to think. I always say flip the script. When you're a buyer, try to think like a seller. When you're a seller, try to think like a buyer. If I'm walking around as a buyer. As a buyer's agent, what are the questions that I'm going to ask? And really go through and inspect that house. Like if they've taken you through and you've looked at the house with them, sometimes I'll say, I'm going to go back through and take a couple pictures so that I can do my write-up, so that I don't have them right beside me, so that I'm not feeling like they're watching my every move, so that I can be a little bit more like nitpicky about the house. Really look behind to look, how gross is it, you know, whatever. Open the shower curtain, see if, you know, what it looks like in there. Okay, well, I really wanted several people to be able to talk to you guys about listings, just because everybody does it a little bit differently. We have Canva class next week. She is going to work with you. She wants you to come with your computers at hand. She's going to work with you to create some templates while you're here. If you don't have templates already, she's going to show you how she keeps hers organized. She's good. It's going to be good because you'll walk away from that class having some templates that you can put in place with your social media. I think that's it. I hope that helped y'all a little bit. Thank you.